Officer David Miller was a man of the night. He was not a night owl by choice. His shift started when the sun sank below the city's skyline. His patrol area was a labyrinth of shadows and forgotten places. He drove his cruiser through an industrial district. The warehouses were hulking beasts of brick and metal. Their windows were dark, empty eyes. He was alone with his thoughts, a constant companion. David was a good officer. He was not a hero in the movies. He was just a man doing his job. He had a strong sense of duty. He did his work with a quiet competence. He was well liked by his peers. He was a man of few words. People respected his professionalism. He was not married. He did not have children. The police force was his family. His radio crackled to life with static and a muffled voice. He could not make out the words. The static was a constant presence in this part of town. The signal was poor. He drove past an abandoned factory. The front gate was ajar. A single beam of light from his cruiser cut through the darkness. It illuminated a sign that said, "Warning, keep out." The sign was old and rusted. The metal was peeling off. A flicker of movement caught his eye. A shadow slunk away from the light. It was a dog, a German shepherd. The dog was scrawny and its coat was matted. It looked like it had been living on its own for a long time. Its ears were bent and its tail was tucked between its legs. It was a stray, a ghost of a dog. David slowed his cruiser. He had a soft spot for animals. He tried to call out to the dog. The dog just darted into the shadows. David sighed and continued his patrol. He drove on for another hour. His shift was nearly over. He made one last pass through the industrial area. He saw the same abandoned factory. The gate was now wide open. The wind was making it creak back and forth. A feeling of unease settled in his gut. It was a feeling he had learned to trust. A police officer's instinct is a powerful tool. He decided to check it out. He parked his cruiser a safe distance away. He grabbed his flashlight and his sidearm. He approached the factory with caution. The silence was thick and heavy. The air was cold. The factory was a relic of a bygone era. The machinery inside was covered with dust sheets. The air smelled of old oil and rust. He called out in a clear voice, "Police, is anyone here?" His voice echoed in the cavernous space. There was no answer, just the creak of the gate and the whisper of the wind. He moved deeper into the factory. His flashlight cut through the gloom. It revealed broken machinery and piles of debris. He was checking a corner when a hand shot out from behind a stack of crates. It grabbed his ankle. A second man emerged. They were both large and powerful. David was caught off guard. He was pulled down. His head hit the concrete floor with a sickening thud. The world went black for a moment. He awoke to a throbbing pain in his head. The men were gone. They had taken his sidearm. His radio was smashed. He tried to stand. His leg buckled under him. A sharp pain shot up his spine. He was in a deep pit, a hole in the concrete floor. The pit was filled with water. He was shivering. He could not see the bottom. He tried to pull himself up, but his injured leg made it impossible. He was trapped. He had no way to call for help. He was bleeding from a gash on his head. The water was frigid. He was losing strength fast. He was alone in a dark hole in a forgotten factory. His last thought was of the dog. He wondered if it had found a safe place to sleep. He closed his eyes. The pain was too much. He was fading away. He was not a hero. He was just a man who had gotten unlucky. Meanwhile, the stray German shepherd was huddled behind a dumpster. It was hungry and cold. It was lonely. It had been on its own for years. It knew the dangers of this world. It had learned to be afraid of humans. They were the ones who threw rocks at it. They were the ones who chased it away. But something was different tonight. It had heard a sound, a cry of pain. It was a sound that broke through its fear. It crept back toward the factory. It heard the silence. The silence was not normal. It was a heavy silence. It was a human silence. It was a bad silence. It remembered the man who had driven the car. The man had a kind voice. He did not chase it away. It decided to investigate. It slunk through the open gate. Its nose was on the ground. It was searching for a scent. It found the scent of the man. It was a strong scent, a scent of fear and blood. It followed the scent into the dark factory. It saw the man's flashlight on the ground. It was flickering. It was a sign of life. The flashlight was near a large, dark hole in the floor. The dog approached the hole cautiously. It looked down. It saw the man. The man was in the water. He was not moving. The dog whimpered. Its instincts told it to run away. Its heart told it to stay. It made a choice. It chose the heart. It began to bark. It was a loud bark, a desperate bark. It was a call for help. It barked and barked and barked. The sound echoed through the factory, but no one heard it. The factory was too far from the main road. The dog knew it had to do more. It stopped barking. It ran out of the factory. It ran toward the main road. It was its only hope. The road was empty. The dog waited. A car appeared in the distance. The dog ran into the road. It stood in the middle of the road and barked. The car swerved to avoid it. The driver shouted angry words. The dog was almost hit. It ran to the side of the road. It waited again. Another car approached. The dog tried again. The car sped up. The dog was in danger. It was not working. Kit's heart was pounding in its chest. Its fur was standing on end. It was exhausted. It was losing hope. Then it saw a police cruiser. It was parked on a side street. A police officer was sitting inside. The officer was Sergeant Evans, David's partner. Sergeant Evans was taking a break, eating a sandwich. He saw the dog in the road. He saw the dog's frantic movements. He decided to investigate. He put his sandwich down and started his cruiser. The dog saw him coming. It ran toward the cruiser. It barked and wagged its tail. It was not a happy wag. It was a frantic wag. It was a desperate wag. Sergeant Evans was confused. The dog was trying to tell him something. The dog ran back toward the industrial district. It stopped and looked back. It was a clear message. Follow me. Sergeant Evans decided to trust his gut. He followed the dog. The dog led him to the abandoned factory. Sergeant Evans was on his guard. He was not a rookie. He knew this was a dangerous situation. He parked his cruiser and grabbed his radio. He called for backup. This is Sergeant Evans. I am at the old factory on Elm Street. I have a strange situation. I need a team here now. He walked toward the factory with his flashlight. The dog was waiting for him at the open gate. It whined. It was a sound of relief. They entered the factory. The dog ran ahead. It was leading the way. Sergeant Evans followed it. The dog stopped at the edge of the pit. It barked and looked at Sergeant Evans. Sergeant Evans shined his light down into the hole. He saw David. He saw his partner, a man he considered a brother. David was pale and shivering. He was barely conscious. "David, David, can you hear me?" Sergeant Evans shouted. David stirred. He opened his eyes slowly. He looked up at Sergeant Evans. He could not speak. He just nodded. Sergeant Evans was relieved. He was alive. The dog had saved him. The backup team arrived a few minutes later. The rescue was quick and efficient. They got David out of the pit. They put him on a stretcher. He was rushed to the hospital. The dog was a ghost again. It slipped away into the shadows. David's injuries were serious but not life-threatening. He had a concussion. He had a broken leg. He was in the hospital for a week. The entire police force was relieved. They were also amazed by the story of the dog. A stray German shepherd, a ghost of a dog, had saved one of their own. They started a search for the dog. They wanted to find it. They wanted to adopt it. They wanted to give it a home. They called it the Guardian in their private conversations. But the dog could not be found. It had disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. The police force was disappointed but not defeated. They decided to hold a ceremony for David. It was a small ceremony in the precinct hall. The entire force was there. They were all in their dress uniforms. They were all there to honor David and to celebrate his return. David was there on crutches. His leg was in a cast. He was a hero in their eyes. He gave a short speech. He thanked everyone for their support. He talked about Sergeant Evans. He talked about the strange events of that night. He talked about the dog. He said he owed his life to a nameless stray. He said he wished he could find the dog and thank it. As he finished his speech, the doors to the precinct hall opened. A dog walked in. It was the German shepherd. It was still scrawny, and its coat was still matted. But its tail was no longer tucked between its legs. It held its head high. It walked with a new sense of purpose. It walked toward David. The entire room fell silent. No one made a sound. No one dared to move. David looked at the dog. He saw the same eyes he had seen in the fleeting moment before he passed out in the pit. The eyes were full of wisdom and loyalty. He smiled. He put his crutches to the side. He knelt down on one knee despite the pain. He reached into his pocket. He took out his police badge. It was a shiny silver star, a symbol of his duty. He pinned the badge to the dog's collar. The dog did not flinch. It did not move. It just stood there with its head held high. Then the dog did something unexpected. It licked David's hand. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. David was no longer alone. He was no longer a man of the night. He had a family. He had a friend. The entire police force watched in silence. A tear rolled down Sergeant Evans' cheek. Then another, then another. Soon the entire room was in tears. They were not tears of sadness. They were tears of pure joy. It was a moment of true love and friendship. A moment of true humanity. The dog was no longer a stray. It was no longer a ghost. It was one of them. It was a member of the force. It was their hero. It was their guardian. It was their family.